make your way back to your seats so we can move on to the next panel. So, and before the next panel starts, we've invited Laura to come and speak a little bit about her enterprise, which was mentioned first thing this morning by Suzanne. So here's Laura.
Hi, I am from 3033 Legal Suites, and we are located in South San Francisco, right in between San Francisco and the Peninsula. And we offer turnkey, fully managed legal suites just for attorneys, and we have a variety of packages. We have mail drop, which is an active mail drop where we scan everything to you every day, so you never really have to come into the office. We can do virtual offices, we have part-time desks, we have dedicated desks, we have secure storage and everything. So if you want any more information, we're in the back. There's also a little thumb drive that has a lot of information and some special offers we have for you guys. So thank you.
Thanks, Laura. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and begin our next panel. And I'd love for the panelists to just introduce yourselves. Maybe we can start with Rob down there on the end, and you can each give us just a minute or so about yourself, your practice, how you got started, how you ended up where you are today.
So hi, my name is Robert Boyd. Graduated from Santa Clara University School of Law, went to UCLA before that. I practiced primarily immigration and family law. In terms of family law, I do a lot of dissolutions and domestic violence cases and child custody cases. I started my career in the nonprofit field. I was working at an organization called API Legal Outreach for about 4.5 years. I ran their immigration project, and I was also a domestic violence attorney there. I decided to go solo. A short time after I left API Legal Outreach, I had worked at a small firm for a while, decided I didn't like working for someone else, and actually my wife had started our firm initially, and I decided just to join her. And yeah, ever since then, for the past couple of years, I've been practicing, and it's been great. And currently, I'm president-elect of the Filipino-American Bar Association Filipino Bar Association, Northern California. I'm a director of the Asian American Bar Association of Greater Bay Area. I'm involved in a couple of the national Asian American groups, and I'm involved in AILA, the American Immigration Lawyers Association.
My name is Heather Borlace. I graduated from Golden Gate in 2001. Came to law school hoping to be a prosecutor, but after going through the Women's Employment Rights Clinic, I decided I was going to do plaintiff's employment law. And upon graduating and passing the bar the first time and living through 9/11, I could not get a job. So rather than go and do the jobs that I was being offered, DUI defense and family law, and just things that were not really interesting me, I decided I was going to take the plunge and jump off the pier and start my own firm. I opened on Martin Luther King Day, 2002, and my husband joined me in 2005. So now I was originally Borlace Law Offices. We have Bayer and Borlace, and we practice exclusively employment law on the plaintiff side.
Hi everyone, I'm David Herzog. My firm is David Herzog Legal. I went solo 2 years ago. I graduated Golden Gate in '93 and worked with other solo lawyers and small firms until 2 years ago. I was at a small firm in the city. There were 8 attorneys, and it was all litigation, and I was their business guy. So I was mostly doing my own work and building my own practice anyway, and so I went solo 2 years ago. My practice is small businesses. I advise. Okay. I swear I didn't do anything. All right, let's give it a try. So I advise small businesses, medium-sized businesses, anywhere from businesses that are going to stay small to startups and that sort of thing.
I'm Tiffany Staley, and I opened my solo practice 2 days after being sworn in. I was sworn in on Friday, and on Monday my office was open. That was 2.5 years ago. I represent artists and other creative businesses. I help them protect their assets, their valuable assets, the things that they're creating, the things that they pour their life energy into. I help them grow their businesses, and I help eliminate surprises. What that involves is a mix of copyright and trademark law, lots and lots and lots of contracts. I read about 10 or 12 contracts a week, and some really basic small business formation. When it's stuff that's more than a single member LLC, I send it places like David's Way, but for the most part, it's just learning their businesses and really helping figure out how we can monetize and turn them from starving artists into thriving artists.
Great, thank you so much. So the first topic on the agenda is marketing and getting clients. So I'd love to hear from you all what you found are the best ways for you personally to find clients, how you get clients. And I think it'll be very different for each of you because you have such different practices. Who wants to start? Rob?
I mean, in terms of getting clients, I kind of have like a multi-tiered approach. I do have the internet marketing. We do our Google AdWords, which is fine. I mean, it's not spectacular. The quality of the clients you get from the internet, frankly, is trash. Okay, vast majority of them are not spectacular. You will make money off it. You will make quite a bit of money off it, but sometimes it can be very difficult because, well, frankly, it's people who are searching in the whole sea, the morass, looking for any sort of help possible. I also have ads in Philippine news and in ethnic press in Singtao. I write a column in Philippine news. I'm also a correspondent for them, and that's helpful. And that's a little bit better. I get some more people from there. But a lot of the way that I get my clients is from personal referrals through networking. So I spend a lot of time networking every week, probably somewhere from, I don't know, like 4 to 10 hours a week, going out there to different events, trying to meet people. I probably served on, I think, like 5 or 6 different boards. I've been an officer of 5 different nonprofits, including bar associations, and I still serve as an officer on 2 of them. What's great about networking in the different bar associations, I'm not sure if any of you guys are involved in BASF, Alameda County Bar, San Mateo Bar, the Asian American Bar, Minority Bar Coalition, etc. If you can find an interest group within those bar associations that's close to you, or let's say, for example, I'm Filipino American, Asian American, because I have an affinity to those groups. When I go to those events, we have commonality. It's not that hard to build rapport with people. A lot of us, you know, it's bad to make assumptions, but a lot of us do tend to like the same kind of things, same kind of events on the weekends, same things when we want to go out, do things. We have a vested interest in helping each other, so we end up spending a lot of time with each other. And frankly, people refer me cases because they like me. So when I go out to all these different events, I build friendships, and then later I do the whole Pete Gamble thing in Mad Men, and I take them out, wine and dine them, whatever, or I just hang out with them. Sometimes I get clients from people I play video games with online. So, I mean, that's kind of how I do it. I really try to take care of the people I meet. Obviously, if it's someone I'm not going to get along with, I don't push it too much, but I treat everyone with respect. I treat everyone as well as possible, and kind of just, I never make the hard sell. Okay? Some people will go out there and they're super pushy and they'll always be like, this is what I do, this is what I do, send me cases. Never do that. I just mention it, oh, I happen to do this, blah, 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 and then for the rest of the time in interacting with people, I spend my time just getting to know them. And frankly, if you get to know people, they're going to send you a lot of work.
Well, I have taken a similar approach. I've been doing this a little longer, so I'm not out meeting and greeting as much as I was in the beginning. But I have been very active in bar associations. I was an officer at the Barristers Club here at the Bar Association. I'm a co-chair of the Disability Rights Committee over the Bar Association as well. My husband and I, we have a website. We have Twitter accounts. We are not astute at using them as certainly we would be if we had come along in a different age, graduated law school a little later perhaps. I feel like the most reliable way that we get our clients is by being very solid attorneys. Most of our good clients have come from cases. They've been witnesses in other cases, or they have been friends of people who we have helped. I'd say upwards of 75% of our cases are involve litigation, so we have years with people where we're working with them on their case, and we really get to know people that way. And when they're happy with our work, which is vast majority of the time, they reward us with sending us their friends and family. And the good thing about practicing employment law is every one of you knows someone who has a job. And you know, occasionally those people are going to run into problems or have questions, and they're going to need someone who can answer them. And we pride ourselves on being extremely personable, extremely hands-on with people, treating them with respect, treating them like friends rather than clients or a file number. And I think that shows. Our website is filled with testimonials that were given by clients, and every time I'm having a bad day, I open the website up and remind myself of, okay, I've done good work for people, they are thankful, and I can get through this, and that's really it. Just be solid, love what you do, and tell everybody about it. And if you like what you do, you will be telling everybody about it, so those two things won't, it won't take much.
So, a couple of things, and not to reiterate, and I'm probably not going to go through my laundry list, but getting clients is really it can dovetail into everything. So the rest of whatever's on your agenda here in terms of everything else, it's always going to, not always, but it's going to come back to, you know, building a practice, whether it's volunteering or getting on board or handshaking, you know, whatever it is. One of the things that, you know, when I was at the firm that I was at up until a couple of years ago, I worked for a partner who was very smart but also extremely acerbic. And he said, you know, one of the things you have to think about when building a practice is, given how many lawyers there are in California, there's a few at the top who are just geniuses and they don't really care about marketing because they know that they are the go-to people. They write the treatises. They are it. And then there's the low liars on the other end of the spectrum. And then there's everybody else in between. And usually most of us are going to fall in between, where we're doing good work, we care about our work, we're not rocket scientists. Well, actually, if we were, we wouldn't be practicing law. We're not geniuses at the law. And so, you know, we do good, conscientious work. And so it really inevitably then comes down to how to differentiate what makes you different, and whether that's being on boards or whatever that is. But to Rob's point about relationships, I think that that's really critical. You know, when you start out, and we'll be talking about some marketing things that we do and how we got to where we were in terms of that piece, but it really does inevitably come down to, you know, the good work that you do, and that's true, and I think testimonials and that sort of thing. Get your friends, just do anything for your friends, and then get them to write something nice about you, and then throw it up on your website or wherever you want to have that, on your flyers or whatever it is. But it really is about relationships and how you get those and how you nurture those. It can be really, really important. There are some other marketing things I want to talk about, but I'm already taking up too much time, so I'm gonna hand it over to Tiffany. But that's a really important piece.
So yeah, I think all of us kind of have similar themes along this. Relationships are incredibly important. Both relationships with your colleagues, with people who don't practice the same area of law but have companion practices, as well as people who are not necessarily your clients but interact with your type of clients. So I interact with a lot of artists and creatives just in my normal life. I'm a photographer, I go to art gallery openings, I go to shows, I go to this and I go to that. And I just have a conversation, people ask me what I do, I'm excited about what I do, I share a little piece of information, and then I leave it at that, and I ask them about their art, I learn about them. 6 months later, when they have a friend who's been approached to do a licensing agreement to, put their artwork on, an anthropology bag, they're going to be like, oh, Tiffany, that cool girl that I met at that opening, I see her all the time around town, she's always supporting the arts, she's a great person for you to go talk to. And the same thing with your professional colleagues. Al Stoll, who spoke earlier, he has a once-a-month lunch meeting. It's called Attorney Action Club. It meets the third Thursday of every month. We take turns giving a presentation about what we're experts in. You get MCLEs, you get free lunch, and you start to build relationships with people and figure out what they're passionate about. My take on referrals is you should refer anything you're not going to wake up excited to work on. If you have that person come and you have that 10 or 15 minute conversation with them and you can't imagine being excited, you need to figure out who in your community is. And building relationships with your professional colleagues and figuring out what they're excited about, figuring out what their passions are, will allow you to refer that potential client to the right person. And then they're going to become a huge cheerleader for you. First off, because you've given them the right attorney, and second of all, because you've recognized where you're good and where you're strong and where you're not. And so building those kinds of relationships can really help your practice in a lot of ways.
If I can add one thing, something that I found useful, I got really involved in the Bar Association because it's very heavily laden with defense attorneys. And I'm not a defense attorney, and defense attorneys generally don't represent plaintiffs, but they like and they need people who do. So it's a good place to be. It's a good place to form those personal relationships with these people you're going to be litigating against and working out resolutions with. And it's a good place to find cases from people who are making that first referral. There are plaintiffs' employment bars as well, but you get referrals from those, and those are the ones that 2, 3, 4 other attorneys have already said no to. So it's a very different crop. Think in opposites. Think what your niche is, and then what's the polar opposite of that niche? Where can I find those people? And that's where you're going to find an interesting pool of referrals.
So David, you mentioned differentiating yourself and your practice and your firm from all of the others that are out there. So I wondered if you all had given thought to branding or sort of a similar way of differentiating and making yourself stand out from a crowd.
So I'll start. So when I was, just between us, when I was still at the firm, I started thinking about going out on my own, and I consulted with a branding guy about, because I knew that I just didn't want to put up a website, and I wasn't going to have an office, so, excuse me. So my front office was going to be my website, because I work from home. So I knew that I needed to have an investment in my site, because that would be the place where people would go and either validate a referral, and so they want to check me out, or maybe they do a web search, but I really don't get traffic from that now, but I knew I needed something like that. And so when I thought about what this attorney had said about how there's 80% of us who are all kind of in the same pool, how do you differentiate? And for me, because I'd already been practicing for 17, 18 years, I already knew who my client base was. But it was also really important to understand sort of who do you want your clients to be. You'll always get the outliers, you'll always get the referrals, you'll always get that, but who do you want to market to? And ultimately, who are you? Who are you to them? Are you sophisticated? Are you the gravitas lawyer? Are you the folksy lawyer? Sort of what are you to who you want your clients to be, and sort of bringing those two together is kind of a task. It's sort of it's really thinking about, so who am I to my clients? What are the clients that I want? What do they think of me? What do I think of myself, honestly? And that's a pretty long process if you're trying to develop brand that way, and if you're trying to differentiate. If you don't care about those things, if you're 8th generation California and your referrals are just going to keep coming in because you know everybody in the state, then it may not make that big of a difference, or you're really entrenched in your community, that kind of thing, or you've been networking for years and it's just, the flow is just coming. But for me, I wasn't like that. I moved out here, and so I didn't have that. But that differentiator will allow you then to just sort of it'll define everything else for you. Then everything else will just flow real easily. You can, your website will go up easily, your cards, your everything. That will fall into place once you decide that I'm going to be you know, the lawyer who, you know, wears his, you know, sleeves rolled up, and my clients are, you know, startups, and they're all, you know, some of them are advertising and marketing types, and so they're all kind of 20, 30 somethings. They don't want to see, you know, sort of a, you know, a blue and gold tiled website. They want to see something a little bit more, you know, original to them. So I just looked at their websites, you know, and they're really cool stuff. And I said, you know, I just want to look like my clients. So that's what I told my branding, let's just go this way and forget about what all the other law firms are doing. And so just that differentiator, just thinking about all those different pieces. Who am I to them? Who are they to me? What do I want? And don't worry about the people that you think you're going to alienate, because if it's a referral, you're not going to alienate them because they're so desperate for a lawyer that is referred to them that they'll just call you anyway, no matter what you got up. So that was, I think, by way of differentiating. I think that's, you know, I think that's really key for that. I don't know if anybody else has had that. I know.
Yeah, I have a lot to say on this topic. So before I started my practice, so I'm a very visual person, obviously with the creative background. I had sketches of who my ideal clients were. I knew what they looked like, I knew where they shopped, I knew what they did, and I wrote my website looking at those pictures. I wrote every single copy thinking, I'm talking to this client, I'm talking to this potential client. I have a Pinterest board, actually, that's a private Pinterest board of clients that I want to have in my roster, and I look at that kind of stuff as I go through and I revise the copy of my website. Is this going to resonate with these specific people? I have people in the community that, you know, have been friends and now are clients, and I talk to them when I write blog posts. I talk to them when I write the copy of my website. I know who these people are, and I really try to get in their heads and talk to them in the language that they expect to hear from me. I think you also have to do this, though, in a way that's very genuine to you. And, you know, I'm the lawyer who shows up to your studio in jeans and a blazer. And I don't care. Like, there are people who don't want that lawyer. And I am perfectly fine showing them that that's who I am on my website, because I don't want to waste my time thinking you're going to come to a fancy financial district office and have a conversation with me in a suit. I don't want to spend 20 minutes, an hour having a conversation with you. I want you to know exactly who I am and how I choose to practice law, so that we don't both waste our time. You don't spend an hour traveling to meet me, and I don't spend an hour wasting my time to meet you. So I think that your branding and the way you present yourself can not only help attract the right people, but I think it's actually good to alienate people, and the people who want that, you know, fancy, stuffy lawyer, don't pick up the phone and call me, because it's a waste of both of our times. And so I think that your branding can really help carry out your entire practice.
I mean, branding, for what I do, you know, since my office tends to be more of a generalist kind of practice. Well, we do a lot of immigration, family law, and landlord-tenant. We also do some civil and some bankruptcy and some other miscellaneous business stuff. We're not that picky about who our clients are, other than the fact that they have a problem, they can pay, and we're not going to do anything unethical to represent them. Basically, our clients are people, well, frankly, you know, as we were talking about earlier, some of our practice areas are things that other attorneys, probably 99% of you here, do not want to touch. We spend a lot of time evicting people, doing the else act evictions, doing just cause evictions, etc. I spend a lot of time stripping people of custody. I spend a lot of time getting restraining orders against people. I spend a lot of time breaking up marriages on a day-to-day basis. That is what I do. I do deportation defense. I have to deal with people who've committed crimes where they've done terrible things to people. In terms of branding, for us, what's most important is we're focused primarily on certain communities. We focus on minority communities, and that's why it's plastered all over our website that we're fluent in, you know, Mandarin, Cantonese, and Tagalog. We speak those languages. That's very important for our clients. The other thing is that if you look us up in the media, you'll see, you know, statements from us in newspapers, in ethnic press. My wife used to do radio shows before in the Chinese community. If you look up domestic violence and you look up my name, well, there's going to be a ton of stuff there. If you look up immigration, there will be things from SF Weekly to NBC News to whatever. It just depends on that. And our branding is really, we are a firm that primarily focuses on helping people who are minorities, particularly in the Chinese community and other API communities. And we do things that, frankly, most people don't want to do.
Our firm, as far as branding, I think I don't think we've put as much thought of it as some of the other panelists have into who our client looks like. We represent all kinds of employees who need help, from people who are making minimum wage up to executives making 7 or 8 figures. And I'm happy to talk to anyone. I'm happy to establish a trust relationship with any of those people who need help and have questions about what their legal rights are and feel disempowered and need someone to guide them through and let them know that this is one of the top bad things to happen to you, losing your job. It's one of the top 5 stressors in life, but you're going to get to the other side of it. And I'm going to help you do that. You're going to be in a better place when you're on that side, whether you have a money resolution, whether you have an equitable resolution, whether you're free of this horrible employer that you wanted to leave for a long time and you can't believe they did this to you, and now you have a chance to break free. So we're kind of, we spend our time, I think, counseling people and doing a lot of psychological work with people. It's, there's a shock to the system that people go through when they are fired. It doesn't happen often to them, and with our clients, it doesn't happen often. I don't take clients who get fired from all their jobs. And you have to be okay with working with that. People are going to be messy when they come to your office. People are going to have messy finances. People are not going to be, presenting as well as they would in a job interview, or as they would in, meeting with a lawyer who's going to help them open up their business. They're going to be messy. They're going to be fractured. And I think one of the skills that we have, and one of the ways that we market ourselves, is that we make it okay. We're, our law website looks like you're coming to our living room rather than a big mahogany paneled law firm. I think we all share that. That's not the vibe we want to give off. I don't want to intimidate you. I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to feel safe. And then I want to hear all your problems so I can strategize and get you in a better place. And then, as far as differentiation from the field, I think, I don't know, that's hard to say. I think we just have a strong record of fighting hard, fighting long, and we take on all kinds of different clients. We took on a national law firm on a wage and hour case, just little old Whittier and Borlace. And that's what we advertise on our website. A lot of people come to our door saying, "Ooh, I work for so-and-so company, are you willing to fight against them?" Of course we are. They want to know that we can handle that. They want to know we're not afraid of the big white shoe law firm on the other side. And that's how we differentiate ourselves. I don't know, beyond that, I think it's really just about doing what you love, eliminating those clients however you can who you are not going to vibe with. I have fired clients. I have no problems doing that. And then the ones that you have, just doing excellent work on and staying tight with. I literally every single person who has come to me over the last 13 years, I have seen move on to better stuff, and I'm in touch with the vast majority of them. And Christmas time comes and I get to touch base with them and hear about their new ventures and their new job and their kids and all that, and that's the most fulfilling thing. And I do think that that's a little different from some of my colleagues, or many of my colleagues.
So I think the takeaway from that, though, is at one point Heather, you said something about how I'm not sure about whether you've really looked closely at the branding or marketing piece, whatever. But if you, and so if your client base is more broad-based, in other words, if you're not a Kiffany where you know exactly sort of who you want your client to be or who that is, and then sort of base a brand off of that. I think if you look at Heather's website, I think it's a really good example of we are broad based in terms of who our clients might be on a scale of income, but this is who I am, and I think it's a really good example of if you've got a broad based sort of feel for who your clients might be, then at least your site, if you wanted to, again, sort of if you've got a steady stream of clients and you don't care, then just, there are a lot of lawyers who don't post a website, so it's really not even just about that. And so therefore don't care about their email address is something at AOL.com because they don't care. And so, but it's a really good example of we have a broad-based client, but this is the kind of person that I am, and this is how I portray, so that when you come and see me, this is the feel you're going to get. And so, but if you know who your client is, then it's going to look more like like Tiffany.
And if you do want to do that process, there's an amazing book called Book Yourself Solid that kind of works you through. There's both an illustrated version and a worksheet, workbook kind of version, depending upon the kind of learning style that you have, that kind of walks you through the process of figuring out who these people are, and then talks about this process that we've talked about differentiating yourself from your clients and the passions and the skills that you can bring that are going to help bring those people in. And that was a great book as I went through this process.
I'm sorry, what was the name of the book again?
It's called Book Yourself Solid. It's by Michael Port.
Thank you.
So I wonder, there's a lot of different topics that I think you guys each have your own expertise on and might be able to talk a little about. So I'm just going to throw out a few different topics, and if you have something to say about those, jump in. So one is advertising, sort of formal advertising. Rob talked about the ethnic press, and he mentioned Google Ads, and I don't know if anybody else is using that. Another is referral fees. We've talked a lot about personal referrals. I don't know if any of you do anything with referral fees, and if why or why not you've decided to pursue that. And I also wondered how you know what's working. How do you know which of your marketing efforts are the ones that are successful and which ones aren't producing results? Because I think that's really vital and can take a lot of time before you figure out that it's not working. And so if you have figured something out, I think that would be really helpful to share.
So I can start this time. So I don't do any formal advertising. Tried some Google AdWords at the very beginning. I think my practice is not a volume practice. I have a relationship-based practice, and so it wasn't attracting the kind of clients that I wanted or needed. And so just skipped that really pretty early on. I talked about lawyer-to-lawyer referrals just briefly. That is a great way to build a referral practice. I don't participate in referral fees at all. I kind of have the philosophy that the best person for the job should do the job. And so I don't pay referral fees, and I've been offered referral fees for passing a client on, and I've turned them down. That's just kind of my philosophy. However, I do participate on the California Lawyers for the Arts referral panel. So if, regardless of your practice area, if you want to represent artistic clients, whether it's anything from immigration to employment to intellectual property issues, California Lawyers for the Arts has a referral panel where artists can call and say, I'm having this problem, and they have a panel of attorneys that they will send these people to. Your only commitment as an attorney is to have a half-an-hour free consultation with the person, and then if you do accept them as a client, to send CLA a 15% referral fee for passing on the client. I found one of the best values to that, while I didn't necessarily get maybe the highest paying cases out of that, since I started my practice straight out of law school, the best value to that for me was I had the same conversation over and over and over and over again with people, and so I figured out what worked and what didn't. I learned how to have a consultation, I learned how to have these conversations with clients, and I really learned what the language was that made sense to people and what language didn't make sense to people as we talked through these issues. So while it never turned into something incredibly lucrative, it was really good in building my confidence and building my ability to have these kinds of conversations with potential clients. So when that big fish came in the door, I knew exactly what to say and I knew exactly what was going to resonate with that person, and I came across really confident and like I knew what I was talking about. And it was thanks to having that conversation already 20 times with somebody who was really just a tire kicker and just wanted information. how I know what works and what doesn't is I ask every person who comes in the door as part of my intake process how they found me. When it's a personal referral, I have these amazing postcards that were designed by my graphic designer that say "You rock" on them, on the front of them with a little diamond. I write a handwritten note, stick it in the mail, and mail it to the person as a thank you for sending my name. People love to get things in the mail because nobody ever sends them anymore. And so I use that tracking sheet to figure out, you know, what's working, where's a good use of my time, where's not a good use of my time, and who I should be taking to lunch, who I should send a bottle of wine to, who I should do, you know, those other kinds of thank yous above and beyond because they are throwing my name out on a regular basis.
So along those lines, one of the things that I have out there is a fairly robust Yelp site, and I agree with Tiffany. I'm not necessarily a volume law firm, but I have gotten some good business off of Yelp. But what I do get a lot of calls and emails that I know aren't going to turn into anything, but I do, like you said, I do use them as an opportunity to talk to somebody because they will have incredibly strange questions. And where they're not strange, and which educates me as to what's going on out there in terms of what all of a sudden people are needing this weird thing or something like that. And if they're not strange, then it gives me the opportunity to sort of go through my rigmarole, knowing that it's not going to turn into anything, so I can also be, you know, a little bit, you know, bold with, you know, sort of like, what if I say this, what's the reaction going to be, and if I say this sort of thing and that kind of thing. So there is some benefit to sort of using sort of that as a way to practice your shtick. In terms of what works, I do the same thing. If I've got somebody who's calling me, usually I'll say, how did you find me? And I don't track it nearly as scientifically as Tiffany, but, you know, after a while, you sort of, you know, you can keep that in your head. A couple of the things that I've got that do seem to work, at least to sort of seal a deal where somebody's sort of feeling like, I don't know if I want to, you know, work with this guy or not, is I do have a few videos up on my website, and they're a little bit, they're sort of like how-to videos, you know, do you need a corporation for your law firm, that kind of, for your business, that kind of thing. But it's my voiceover, which I know is very drone-like, so you wonder, how is that any good? But it's also, it's stick figures, and so I'm just sort of, you know, going by and, you know, with drawings that I've drawn, and so you don't actually have to look at my face, it's not a talking head. And some people really love that. They just look at that and say, I've never seen anything like that before. And whether they really love it or not, they just know they've never seen it before. And so they're kind of thinking, well, this lawyer's going to be interesting to work with, which goes back to, again, relationships. Do I want to work with this guy or not? And that seems to work. And a lot of times I will just get somebody say, I really, you know, blah, 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 I want to work with you, da, 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 and oh, by the way, your website was, you know, was awesome. And so it's hard to tell what specifically works, but if you put enough out there, then it all, you know, it all builds the kind of goodwill that at the end of the day works as a group to get your client.
Do you ask people to post on Yelp?
So yes, and I say, you know, especially the ones that call me off of it. Initially, I had 4 or 5 friends that I don't work for. And so I pretty much insisted that they post. And then after that, once I started getting calls, after 20 minutes, half an hour of talking to somebody for free, they'd say, I really wish there was a way I could help you. 9 times out of 10, they will say that because you've given them good advice, and now they're feeling bad that they weren't able to pay you. And it's actually a drag to take a half an hour's worth of fee over the phone. It's easier not to. In terms of accounting for it and just sort of, wait 1 minute, oh, that didn't go through, can you have another card? It's like, now I've wasted a half an hour. So, but I will say, you can, if you want, no obligation, and I'm not telling you what to say, and I'm not telling you what to rate me, but if you feel like you got some value here today, an actual a post on Yelp is actually more valuable to me than your cash is right now, so if you can take that time, I'd really appreciate it. So, that's, because otherwise, now you're pushing them into it.
Oh, yeah, no,
and you're not supposed to be doing that.
I've been on the receiving end of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so going kind of in order, as far as referral fees go, we've talked about getting referrals from friends and colleagues. As far as referral fees go, we neither pay them nor accept them. Same thing. Just do your job and do it well. Lawyer referral services, like the Bar Association has an LRIS panel. We've applied to it, but because we have a home office, we are disqualified from it. So how many of you are planning on working from home, like exclusively and not having a storefront or anything? Feel free to write the Bar Association in San Francisco and just suggest that maybe this rule go by the wayside. Ironically, my husband and I meet our clients at the Bar Association. They have rooms for rent. And that's not okay enough. But I think this is just an antiquated rule. And the idea that because a lawyer has a brick and mortar place where sometimes they may be at, where you make them more suitable for a panel seems to be a little antiquated. So there's that. Beyond that, I have nothing bad to say. The lawyer referral panel is a great place to get referrals from, and to get also, if you do well with a specific case, you'll get press. Bar Association will do a story about you. There's a couple law firms that have had really great results, and they get press from those cases. Court-appointed panels are an interesting way to go as well. I don't have any specific experience with that, although my husband is starting a mediation practice and he is getting on some court-appointed panels for the Northern District and some other states. So maybe in a year I'll be able to talk to you about that if you want to do mediation practice. We get most of our referrals from, like I said, personal referrals from clients and people who have met us through the cases. I also get a lot of our referrals, second best way is from my listing on the National Employment Lawyers Association website. I'm also on the California Employment Lawyers website, but I don't seem to get any traffic from that, and I don't know why, and I do ask everyone who calls, where did you hear from me from? And then the third place we get our clients from is our Super Lawyers ad. My husband and I have been listed as Super Lawyers for the past few years, since 2009, I believe. And so people find us through that. We are not on Yelp. LinkedIn has provided an interesting challenge to us because it is a professional organization. We have a lot of our clients as LinkedIn connections, but many of them don't want to acknowledge that they had employment problems. So they do not want to give thumbs up or endorsements to us, which I totally understand, but it's an interesting wrinkle in that. We have a lot of, well, we're getting more and more traction on avvo.com, AVVO, and I don't know who started this practice or who found it first, but all of a sudden clients started doing reviews of us there, and we've had some positive traction. So that's all.
In terms of ads, I mean, with Google AdWords, there are some metrics that go into it. I believe if you pay a little bit extra, they'll tell you if the phone number that you got the client from is, they got it from Google Ads, but we don't do that. A lot of the time with online ads, basically we just ask. The same with our print ads, we just ask every single person, oh, how do you hear about us? And we do get a couple from Google AdWords and from the, different ads in regular press. I do have to say though that Google AdWords, it's pay-per-click, so it can get kind of expensive for you guys if you're just starting out. It can range from, I believe, like $2 to like $7 per click. So, I mean, the great thing about it though is because as lawyers we charge a lot. So even if only one of those people clicks on it, I mean, let's say you get, 20 clicks or 30 clicks, maybe you end up spending $200 in a month, right? But as long as one person signs up and you sign up that person for a case that's going to end up costing $3,000 to $10,000, well, you've made quite a bit of money, and that's why we continue to do it. The same with Ethnic Press. We charge, we pay maybe like $150 for one ad twice a month, and then the other one, I think like 3 times a month is $300 or something like that. And it's pretty cheap, and as long as you get a couple clients from that, that's great. The vast majority of our clients, they are from personal referrals, from people that we've either worked with, represented before, or are from referrals. In terms of ramping up referrals that way, I do have to say that a couple things that you should consider. If you're starting out and you don't have a book of business, okay, the only way you're going to get clients is through networking. You should really take like a Dale Carnegie class on networking. there are a bunch of organizations out there and places that will teach you how to network and meet people. Sometimes it seems a little bit weird and a little bit fake, but honestly, it teaches you just to go out there, say hi to people, and like build rapport. If you're able to build rapport with people, you know, they're going to remember you. They're going to come back months later and send you work. So I think that's pretty important. And I do think that doing a lot of volunteer work is very important. It's good for visibility. I know for me, volunteering at legal clinics, you know, when I did my job before at API Legal Outreach, I ran 6. And then after that, after I left, I continued to run them for the bar associations that I'm involved with. And that's always been good. You know, going out in the community, doing presentations, doing panels, you know, setting up events, setting up conferences. Whenever you do anything that's organized and you happen to be in a leadership position when you're doing it, makes it clear to other people that you're someone who's competent, you're someone who actually cares more than just about the bottom line. And it makes it so people are more likely to send you things. You know, why would they, you know, send you work just because, oh, you know, he's another immigration attorney. Well, you know, if they have heard that, oh, you've done X amount of pro bono cases in the past, you've gone out and helped organize clinics to help the greater community, then they're gonna think, well, shoot, he's good, this other person's good, but this guy's done this, maybe he's not a crook, he's not gonna screw me over. So, you know, things like that are very helpful, and I think, yeah, definitely building rapport and building relationships and going out in the community and actually doing meaningful stuff. And it doesn't have to be in the legal profession. I've done a lot of work in the Filipino community on, you know, on issues relating to healthy families, education, and you know, domestic violence, but not the legal aspect of it. And I think that going out there and doing that really entrenches you and gives you some credibility. If you have credibility in your community, people are going to trust you. And I think that's one of the most important things for getting referrals. In terms of referral fees, now, unlike everyone else here, my office does accept, we do accept referral fees and we do pay referral fees. Note, you need to read your professional rules of conduct very carefully with respect to referral fees and make sure that they're disclosed at the beginning if you're accepting or if you are paying them in writing. And absolutely no fee splitting. You will get disbarred for fee splitting if you do that with a non-attorney. You have to be very careful with it. And I tend not to do it as much, but my partner does a lot of referral fees. I tend to do a lot more co-counsel relationships with other firms. I've had over the past couple of years with 2 firms like ongoing co-counsel relationships, and you know, on different discrete issues I'll co-counsel with other firms, and then you know, we'll sign joint retainers and kind of work on cases together. So in particular, we tend to do that when it's something where we're bringing it in, it's something that we are interested in working on, getting experience on. Maybe the other firm has more experience and they're the ones who are going to be doing a lot more of the substantive stuff, and we're going to be learning from them, or vice versa. So those are just things to think about. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with referral fees. I think that, or with co-counseling or having any of those things, I think you just have to do it correctly, legally, and you need to make sure that you know, you're getting something meaningful out of it.
So I want to definitely save time for questions, but I also want to make sure that we have a chance to at least touch on professional development before you guys go. So maybe if you could each take a turn and just very briefly address how you stay current in your practice areas. If isolation is a problem for you and what you do about that as a solo practitioner who's maybe not surrounded by lawyers on a daily basis. And if you do have any advice about legal research, especially on a shoestring budget, add that too, that would be great. And if you don't, that's okay.
So I made a list before I got here. So some of the free resources that I use, Lexology has a huge practice area. You can sign up for each individual practice area that you practice in, and they send you a daily email that kind of articles written by different lawyers at huge law firms as well as smaller law firms summarizing different developments in the law. So that is a daily email I get. There's also a service called Justia Practice Area Summaries that will send you summaries of the week's court cases in the areas of law that you tell them you want. I use Google Alerts a lot. I have Google Alerts set up for lots of different things, both to help curate blog content and social media content, but as well to do education and practice development. And then there's a whole host of practice area specific blogs that I read. You know, kind of one of my determinings to determine if this is a good blog or not is I, do my normal research. Who's citing this blog? Who is commenting on this blog? Is there a good discussion going on? Do they get, 100 comments when they put out a blog post of people who have reputable names in the industry? And you can kind of use that to help determine if what this person's saying is worth reading or not. I don't subscribe to Lexis or Westlaw or any of that. On the rare occasion that I do need something like that, I go to the law library for it. And then I have lunch once a month with several different mentors, and then I can use them to bounce ideas off of. There are people who've been practicing for 20 or 30 years. And so I can have lunch and say, hey, this came into my office, this month. This is what I've done. This is where I'm stuck. Have you ever encountered this before, and what would you do? And they're incredibly generous in, you will find once you open a practice, you can pick up the phone and call a lot of lawyers, and they love to talk about cases they worked on in the past and pitfalls they've come into and resources that you can use. So experienced lawyers I have found are incredibly generous, even more so when you're working on a pro bono case. If you say I'm doing this pro bono case for AIDS Legal Referral Service or for California Lawyers for the Arts, they're going to give you so much time and resources. I've gotten some great form libraries from stuff like that, and it's a great way to build relationships with people.
So yes to all of that, and I'm not going to reiterate it because we're running out of time here. The only thing I would add, I can't remember if you said this, but one of the obvious ones is MCLE, and it's not always necessarily the only thing that you're interested in, but sometimes something that's tangential to what you're interested in, so that you can spot issues for your practice area, so that then you can refer out to an attorney. But at least you can sort of do a little bit of intake based on what you learned at the MCLE. MCLE is also a great way to meet other lawyers. You sit down, you introduce yourself. I did that a few years ago at one MCLE, and that one introduction just dovetailed into all other kinds of introductions and work and so on. So you never really know where that's going to lead. So I think that's really useful. I also did a legal specialization here. I did my tax LLM about 10 years ago. I graduated with that, and that's been that was useful at the time to meet other people in my area, but also obviously a way to sort of move up if you're looking to obviously stay tuned in a specific area, then certainly getting actually educated in it is a strong way to go.
I think some practices, some fields are a little more dynamic, and you have to stay on top of new case developments than others. Litigation, I think, is one of those. Employment certainly is one of those. So my focus is how do I get the most for the least amount of work? Where can I go to get a synthesis of new cases rather than spending my time looking at all the different circuits and all the different courts? And so there's some tricks to that. I do have Lexis. I have to have Lexis or Westlaw, but I picked Lexis. But to get a good feel for where I'm starting, the California Employment Lawyers Association puts out a monthly bulletin. They update you on all the published cases in employment law in the state of California, as well as some of the notable unpublished cases. And that's a great place to start my research. The State Bar Labor and Employment Division also puts out a bulletin, and they often frame the same case differently. So it's a nice to have. The labor and employment tends to be a little bit more balanced. Plaintiff and defense attorneys, California employment lawyers is primarily plaintiffs. So to see how each camp is reviewing the same case and potentially going to use the same case. You can also get yourself motivated to do the reviews by committing to write one of these updates yourself. So it could even be a blog that you don't have to have a deadline or anything associated with. I find when I have a deadline and I'm accountable to somebody else, those things tend to get done a little faster. If you're really ambitious, you can volunteer to present a year-end roundup of the legal developments in your practice. Or if you don't want to go that far, you can organize one. The nice thing about MCLE at many organizations, I'll use my experience at the Bar Association, when you are planning MCLE and organizing MCLE programs, you can attend them for free. When you have to meet your MCLE credits, you will find out that each credit will cost you somewhere between, I don't know, $25 and $75. Over time, that adds up to a lot of money. And if you're at the beginning of your practice, you're probably running into a lot of reasons we talked about, professional development, networking, so on and so forth. If you can get recognition for putting a program together, attend it for free, have those people on your contact list when you have a question about the area that they just, hopefully taught you something about. I mean, you're killing 2, 3, 4 birds with one stone, and that's what I do. And that's basically what I have to add to that.
On top of what everyone else has talked about, I mean, in my practice areas, there are a lot of listservs that I'm on, from AILA, American, and the different organizations where people are constantly, and the organizations are sending emails with updates about new cases that are coming up. There are message boards. AILA in particular has a great message board where basically every question related to immigration has pretty much been answered and continues to be answered in an ongoing kind of dialogue. In terms of other types of things, I mean, legal research, our practice areas, we don't do much appellate work, and with what we do, it is very fact-based, and we don't have to use Westlaw or Lexis very often. If we do, we just go to law library. Most of the time, we're relying on the Rudder Guide and CEB. CEB, they have an online subscription. If you guys sign up, your first year is free for everything, for every practice area. So for people who are brand new, pretty much everyone here, you can sign up for CEB and it'll have, it's basically kind of like a Rudder Guide for civil procedure, family law, elder law, they run the gamut, everything, all the California types of things that you would be working on. Let's see, and then, the law library's been great in terms of getting information. In terms of immigration, there are some other kind of useful things. There is an IJ practice guide. It's the Immigration Judge Practice Guide, which is free and it's online. And it will tell you how the judges are adjudicating things. They also have a Ninth Circuit outline. The Ninth Circuit outline outlines every single change in the law organically as it goes on, and it's written by the clerks of the judges about what's going to be good law. So that's also helpful because since they have that, you don't really have to, shepherdize stuff and do other things because, it's coming from the clerks who are the ones working with the IJs directly in the Ninth Circuit. And then, I think mentor attorneys, older mentor attorneys, try to get as many mentors in the field that you want to practice as much as possible. They're invaluable for pointing you in the right direction to the primary and secondary sources. If you, you should try and join, if you're interested in immigration, you should join, AILA. If you're interested in family law, there's an American Matrimonial Lawyers Association. If you're interested in anything, try to get, just join the different bar associations. Try to find someone who's going to be there, who's going to take you under their wing, and be willing to be, someone that you can always reach out to, because that's one of the most helpful things. I know in my career, anytime I've had like an immigration or family law issue in any of my cases, it's been simple. I just pick up a phone and I call someone. It could be an old professor, could be someone that I met at a bar association event, could be someone that I just grab drinks with every so often. But it really is just that simple for someone to, you know, if you have those kind of relationships, for them to lead you in the right direction. Yeah.
So we have time for a couple of quick questions if anybody has any, and I don't want to put these guys on the spot, but if they happen to be staying for lunch for a few minutes after this, you might be able to ask them one or two more questions while you eat. But does anybody have any very quick question right now? They covered it all. Thank you so much, you guys. We really appreciate it. So it is time for lunch. There are